Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be breaking down the NBA slate for Friday, March 31st. We've got a lot of games on today's slate. There are 11 total. It's been a while since we've had a big slate like this. So yeah, hopefully I can help you guys out today, help you win some money, and let's go ahead and get started. Alright, at the top of the point guard list, you got Russell Westbrook going up against San Antonio. DraftKings did lower Westbrook's price for this matchup. And I definitely think you can play Westbrook on the slate, especially with that price tag. He has played pretty well against San Antonio in the 2 games against San Antonio. He's averaged 61 fantasy points, and at 12-9, you're going to need about 60 for him to hit value. He can definitely do that against the Spurs. This game should be relatively competitive. It is in OKC, so hopefully the Thunder can keep it close. And I definitely like Westbrook on the slate. Also really like James Harden going up against Golden State. These teams just played a couple days ago, and Harden put up 61 fantasy points. I definitely think he can get you 60 in this matchup. So if you want to pay up, I also really like him. Especially with that cheap price tag, 12-2 is pretty cheap for Harden, so I definitely like him if you want to pay up. Steph Curry going up against Houston. I'm also really liking Curry on the slate. His price did rise from it was $8,800 and it rose to $9,500. I definitely like Curry as well, though. These teams just played, like I said, and Curry had 59 fantasy points in the game that they played a couple days ago, and he has played well against them. In the 3 games against the Rockets, he's averaged 48 fantasy points. And with the $9,500 price tag, you're going to need about 45 to 50 for him to hit value. He can definitely do that. So I like Curry if you want to pay up. Giannis against Detroit. Don't think I'm going to be targeting Giannis on the slate. If I were to take that price range, I would just try and get up to Curry. John Wall going up against Utah. I do like Wall's price tag at 9-2. That is very cheap for him, but this is a terrible matchup. Utah is a great defensive team, and they play at a very slow pace. But in the one game that Washington played Utah, Wall had 49 fantasy points, and if he gets you close to that amount today, he will be able to hit value. Just 9-2, you're going to need about 45 DK points for him to return value. And even in this bad matchup, I like Wall. I like his ability to do that. So if you want to pay up for him, I definitely think he is in play. He's just way too cheap. Kyrie going up against the Sixers. I definitely like Kyrie as well. The Sixers really struggle against point guards. Kyrie hadn't been playing that well lately, though, but he can definitely bounce back today, so I like him. Isaiah Thomas going up against Orlando. I really like IT as well. Orlando really struggles against point guards. They just got torched by Westbrook. Westbrook almost had 100 DK points against them a couple days ago. And IT has played well against them. In the one game they played, he had 46 DK points. So I definitely like IT as well if you want to pay up. Kimba going against Denver. Also really like Kimba at that same price. Denver's one of the worst defensive teams, and they play at a very fast pace. And Kimba has played well against them. In the one game they played, he's put up 46 DK points. And he is playing at home today, where he does play a lot better at home. I definitely think Kimba can get you 6x value in this matchup and get you 48 DK points. So I really like him as well. Mike Conley going up against Dallas. Don't think I'm going to go there. I would much rather have Kimba or IT if you're going to pay that price. Gordon Dragic going up against New York. I like this matchup. New York does struggle against point guards. Derrick Rose is not that good of a defender, and Dragic has been playing pretty well lately. In his last 2 games, he's put up 41 and 46 DK points. He is pretty cheap, just 7,400. For him to hit value, you're going to need about 40 DK points from him, and he can definitely do that against New York. He has played very well against them in the 2 games they've played this year. He's averaged 47 DraftKings points, so I definitely like Dragic as well. Also at that same price tag, I'm really liking Elfrid Payton against Boston. You all know Isaiah Thomas is a terrible defender, and if you're going to attack the mid-range, I'm really liking Elf as well. I think he can get you 35 to 40 DK points in this matchup and get you that 5 to 6x value. So I like him if you're going to attack the mid-range. I also like Jeff Teague at just 6,400 going up against Toronto. With Kyle Lowry out, the Raptors have really struggled to defend point guards. And aside from Teague's last game against Memphis, he was playing very well. He had put up 40 DK points twice in his last 4 games, and his price has dropped to 6,400. For him to hit value, you're only going to need about 30 DK points from him to hit value, and he can definitely do that in this matchup going up against Joseph. Joseph is not a good defender, so I definitely like Jeff Teague if you're going to attack the mid-range. I think he is just way too cheap. Some guys on the cheaper end I like. One guy I like is Lou Williams going up against Golden State. This is going to be a very fast-paced, high-scoring game, and these are the type of games that Lou Will thrives in. The Rockets are really going to rely on him to score. He does come off the bench, and he really gives them a boost with his scoring ability. I definitely think he's going to thrive today. When these teams just played, he had 23 DK points. And with that $5,400 price tag, you're only going to need about 25 DK points for him to return value. And I definitely think he can do that today. The Rockets are really going to need him to step up and score the ball. So I like Lou Will if you need some value at point guard. Also like Cory Joseph going up against Indiana. Joseph has been playing very well lately. In his last 3 games, he's put up 23, 43, and 42 DK points. He gets a really good matchup at home against the Pacers. The Pacers really struggle to defend point guards. I really like Cory Joseph on this slate if you need some value. With that $5,400 price tag, you're only going to need about 25 DK points for him to return value. And I definitely think he can do that against the Pacers. Like I said, they really struggle against point guards, so I definitely like Joseph if you need some value at point guard. And yeah, that's pretty much it for point guard. Let's go and move on to shooting guard. Your top shooting guard on the slate is James Harden. I've already talked about him. So under him, you got DeMar DeRozan going up against Indiana. The Pacers really struggle to defend shooting guards. I definitely like DeRozan on this slate if you want to pay up. He has been playing really well lately. In his last 4 games, he's put up 53, 33, 42, and 46 DraftKings points. 8,500, you're going to need about 40 to 45 DK points for him to return value. And I definitely think he can do that against the Pacers. They really struggle against shooting guards. So I really like DeRozan if you want to pay up. I think he is in play. Klay Thompson going up against Houston. I also really like Thompson on this slate. In their last game against Houston, he played very well and put up 42 DK points. He is pretty cheap as well at just 7,100. You're going to need about 35 DK points for him to return value. And I definitely think he can do that in this fast-paced, high-scoring game. The Warriors are really going to rely on him to score the ball, so I definitely like Klay if you want to pay up. Another guy who's catching me with price is Bradley Beal. His price is very cheap at just 7K, but it is because he gets a bad matchup against Utah. But even with that 7K price tag, I definitely think Beal can get you that 5 to 6X value. You're only going to need 35 DK points for him to return value. And even in this bad matchup against Utah, I think Beal can do that. I like him if you're going to attack the mid-range. I think he's just way too cheap. This isn't that great of a matchup, but he can definitely return value on that cheap price tag. And in the one game they've played against the Jazz, he had 33 DK points. And if he gets you around that same amount today, he won't kill you at just 7K. So I like Bradley Beal. If you're going to attack the mid-range, I think he is in play. I also like Nick Batum going up against Denver. Like I said earlier, Denver really struggles just to defend any position, and they played a very fast pace. Batum has been struggling lately, though. His last 2 games put up 15 and 27 DK points. But I definitely think Batum can bounce back today and get you 30 to 35 DraftKings points and get you that 5X value that you want. If you want to attack the mid-range shooting guard, I also really like Batum on this slate. I definitely think he is in play. Another guy I really like is Jrue Holiday going up against Sacramento. Holiday is very cheap at just 6,700. He has been absolutely killing it lately. In his last 4 games, he put up 43, 35, 36, and 39 DraftKings points. With just a $6,700 price tag, if you get 35 DK points from him, that's 6X value. And he can definitely do that today against the Kings. They really struggle against shooting guards. And Holiday has played very well against them this year. In the one game they played, he put up 50 DraftKings points. So I'm really liking Jrue Holiday. He's probably going to be a shooting guard that I target on the slate if I attack the mid-range. He's just way too cheap. Also really like Avery Bradley on the cheaper end. This is a really good matchup against Orlando. They really struggle against shooting guards. And Bradley has been playing very well lately. Aside from that one game against Miami, he had put up 41, 33, and 33 DraftKings points. I really like Bradley's price at just $5,900. You're going to need about 25 to 30 DK points for him to return value. And he can definitely do that against Orlando. They really struggle against shooting guards, like I said. And in the one game that the Celtics played against Orlando, Bradley had 37 DraftKings points in that game. So I really like him as well. If you need someone on the cheaper end, I think he is in play. Also like Victor Oladipo going up against San Antonio. This is a really good matchup. San Antonio does struggle against shooting guards. Oladipo is also pretty cheap at just $5,800. You're only going to need about 25 DraftKings points for him to return value. And I can definitely do that. I can definitely see him doing that today against San Antonio. He has played very well against them actually this year. The 2 games that they played against the Spurs, he's averaged 32 DraftKings points. And if he gets you in the 30s today, he'll get you 6X value. So I'm really liking Victor Oladipo. Need someone on the cheaper end, also like him. Another guy I want to mention at that price range is Buddy Hield, going up against his former team, the Pelicans. He did get traded mid-season from the Pelicans to the Kings, so this is going to be a revenge game for Buddy. I would only probably play Buddy in tournaments just because he's so inconsistent. But going up against his former team, he might come out with a little bit extra fire. So I really like Buddy Hield if you need a cheaper shooting guard on the slate for tournaments. He could play very well today going up against his former team, so I definitely like Buddy if you need someone on the cheaper end. But I would probably only target him for tournaments. He's just way too inconsistent, but he has a really good upside going up against his former team in a revenge game. Also for value, I like Andre Iguodala going up against Houston. Houston does not defend the shooting guard well, and Iguodala has been playing very well lately. In his last 3 games, he's put up 41, 28, and 28 DraftKings points. When these teams just played a couple days ago, Iggy had 28 DK points, so I definitely like him if you need some value. He's been getting the minutes. He's been playing close to 30 minutes just about every night. And with that $4,600 price tag, you're only going to need about 20 to 25 DK points for him to return value. And he can definitely do that in this fast-paced, high-scoring game against the Rockets. So I also like Iguodala. If you need some value on the slate, I think he is in play. I like TLC going up against Cleveland. The Sixers are very thin right now. A lot of their guys are injured. So TLC has really had to step up and play heavy minutes. In his last 2 games, he's gotten over 30 minutes. So I definitely like him on the slate if you need some value. He has been playing very well. In his last 2 games, when he's got the minutes, he's put up 37 and 26 DraftKings points. And he gets another good matchup today against Cleveland. They do struggle against shooting guards. And just 4,500, you only need about 20 DK points for him to return value. If all those guys continue to be out for the Sixers, I definitely like Cabarrot. If you need some value at shooting guard, he should continue to see the minutes. And he shouldn't have a problem returning value on that cheap price. So I like him if you need some value. And yeah, that's pretty much it for shooting guard. Let's go ahead and move on to small forward. All right, your top small forward on the slate is LeBron James. He gets a really good matchup going up against the Sixers. Robert Covington is going to be out for this game, and Covington is the Sixers' best defender. So LeBron should be able to dominate in this matchup. And he is very cheap at just $10K. For him to return value, you're only going to need about 50 to 55 DraftKings points for him to do that. And he can definitely do that in this matchup against the Sixers. So if you want to pay up at small forward, I'm really liking LeBron on this slate. And he's played very well against the Sixers this year. And the 2 games that they have played, he's averaged 62 DraftKings points. So I'm really liking LeBron on the slate. If you want to pay up, I definitely think he is in play. For $600 less, you got Kawhi going up against OKC. I don't really like this matchup for Kawhi. He's going to be guarded by Andre Roberson, and Roberson is a very good defender. I don't think I'm going to be playing up for Kawhi, even though he is very cheap. I don't really like this matchup, and he has struggled against OKC. The 2 games that they played, he's only averaged 40 DK points, and if he gets you 40 today, that's not very good for his price tag. So I don't think I'm going to be paying up for Kawhi. If I were to pay up at small forward, I would probably just try and get up to LeBron. So I'm not going to be on Kawhi. Paul George going up against the Raptors. This is a really good matchup. The Raptors do struggle against the small forward, and PG is very cheap at just $8K. His price did drop after his last game, and PG's just been absolutely killing it lately. His last 4 games, he's put up 51, 34, 58, and 39 DraftKings points. Just $8K, you're only going to need 40 DraftKings points for him to return value. I definitely think he can do that against Toronto. So I really like PG as well if you want to pay up for small forward. I think he is in play. Gordon Hayward going up against Washington. Also really like Hayward. This is a really good matchup. Washington does struggle against a small forward. And Hayward is pretty cheap at just $7,300. You're only going to need about 35 DraftKings points for him to return value. And he can definitely do that against Washington. And he has played well against them this year. In the 1 game they played, he put up 44 DraftKings points. So I definitely like Gordon Hayward as well. If you want to pay up for small forward, I think he is in play. Some guys at the mid-range I like. One guy I like is Jae Crowder going up against Orlando. This is a really good matchup. The Magic really struggle to defend small forwards. And Crowder is pretty cheap at just $6K. For him to pay off that price, you're only going to need 30 DraftKings points for him to do that. And he can definitely do that against the Magic. Like I said, they really struggle against small forwards. And Crowder has played very well against them. On the 2 games that they played, he's averaged 37 fantasy points. So I definitely like Jae Crowder. If you need a small forward at the mid-range, I think he is in play. Also at the mid-range, I like Trevor Ariza going up against Golden State. This is actually a pretty good matchup. Without Kevin Durant, Golden State has struggled to defend the small forward. And when these teams just played a couple of days ago, Ariza did very well and put up 35 DraftKings points. He is pretty cheap at just $5,900. For him to return value, you're only going to need 30 DK points for him to do that. And I definitely think he can do that in this up-and-pace, high-scoring game against the Warriors. So I really like Ariza as well. If you need somebody at the mid-range, I think he is in play. And one more guy I like is Josh Richardson going up against the Knicks. This is a really good matchup. The Knicks are one of the worst teams defensively against the small forward. And Richardson has been killing it lately. He's been very consistent. In his last 4 games, he put up 23, 25, 25, and 31 DraftKings points. And he put up 31 a couple days ago against the Knicks in the same matchup. He can definitely repeat that stat line today and get you 30 DraftKings points and get you that 6x value that you want. So if you need a small forward at the cheaper end, I'm really liking Richardson. He's probably going to be a guy I target if I need some value. I definitely think he can get you 5 to 6x value in this matchup. The Knicks really struggle to defend small forwards. So I really like Richardson. You need a small forward on the cheaper end. I think he is in play. And yeah, that's pretty much it for small forward. Let's go and move on to power forward. All right, at the top of the power forward list, you got Anthony Davis going up against Sacramento. I'm not going to be talking about AD in this matchup. You already know who's going to be the best play in this game, and that's DeMarcus Cousins in the revenge game going up against his former team. You all know he got traded midseason from the Kings to the Pelicans. I think Boogie is just going to absolutely torch the Kings today. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate, especially for tournaments. I think he has 70 to 80 DraftKings points upside in this matchup. Really liking Boogie on the slate. He's one of my favorite studs on the slate if you want to pay up for a stud. I think he dominates against his former team. I think they're just going to feed him the ball and let him go to work. Really like Boogie on the slate. He's one of my favorite studs. I like Anthony Davis as well, but I think this is just going to be a Boogie game. I think they're going to try and get Boogie the ball and just let him go to work. So I'm really liking Boogie. He's one of my favorite studs on this slate. Draymond Green going up against Houston. If you don't want to pay up, you want to get somebody at the cheaper end, I do like Draymond. He did play very well in their last game against Houston a couple days ago and put up 41 DraftKings points. 7,800. You're going to need about 35 to 40 DK points for him to return value. And he can definitely do that. If you don't want to pay up for power forward, I'm really liking Draymond on this slate. Kevin Love going up against the Sixers. Also really like Love as well. His minutes restriction has been lifted, so he's been getting the minutes. And he's going to get the minutes in this matchup. He'll get 30 plus minutes, so don't worry about that. And he can definitely pay off that $7,600 price tag in this matchup. The Sixers really struggle to defend power forwards. Dario Saric is not a good defender. I definitely think Love can get you 5 to 6x value, get you about 35 to 40 DK points in this matchup. If you want to attack the mid-range at power forward, I'm liking him. I definitely think he's in play. Porzingis going up against Miami. Don't think I'm going to be on Porzingis on the slate. This is a really bad matchup. If I were attacking that price range, I would much rather have Love for just 100 more. Dario Saric going up against Cleveland. I like Saric in this matchup. He has been playing pretty well lately. His last 4 games put up 50, 21, 34, and 31 DraftKings points. At 7,500, you're going to need about 35 to 40 for him to return value. And he can definitely do that against the Cavs. They do struggle against power forwards. But I probably wouldn't attack him at that price range. If I'm going to attack that price range, I would much rather have Kevin Love for 100 more. I think Love's the guy you want to go. If you're going to attack that price range, he's the guy you should target. Under them, I like LaMarcus Aldridge going up against OKC. This is a really good matchup. The Thunder really struggle to defend power forwards. I really like Aldridge's price tag as well at just 7K. For him to get 6x value, you only need 42 DraftKings points. It's very likely that he can do that today against OKC. I think this game's going to be very competitive. So if you want to attack the mid-range, I like him. He hasn't played that well against OKC this year. In the 2 games they've played, he's only averaged 31 DK points. But even if he gets you 30 plus, he won't kill you at just 7K. So I like LMA if you need someone at the mid-range. I think he's in play. Zach Randolph going up against Dallas. I really like Randolph. I'm not a big fan of his price tag. His price is starting to rise. But with Marc Gasol out, Randolph has been seeing heavy minutes. And if Marc Gasol continues to be out, Randolph should get the minutes. And he can definitely get you 5 to 6x value and pay off that $6,700 price tag. You're only going to need about 30 DK points for him to do that. And if Marc Gasol continues to be out, Randolph's definitely a guy you can target at the mid-range at power forward. I like him. I also really like James Johnson. This is one of the best matchups for a power forward. The Knicks really struggle to defend power forwards. And JJ did very well in their last game against the Knicks. He put up 42 DraftKings points. He can definitely get you 30 to 40 DK points in this matchup. Like I said, the Knicks really struggle to defend power forwards. Really like JJ. If you're attacking the mid-range at power forward, I definitely think he is in play. Also at the mid-range, I like Wilson Chandler going up against Charlotte. Charlotte really struggles to defend the power forward. And Chandler's pretty cheap at just 6K. For him to return value, you're going to need about 30 DraftKings points. And he can definitely do that in this matchup. Chandler really plays heavy minutes. He plays close to 40 minutes almost every night. I definitely think he can get you 5 to 6x value in this matchup against the Hornets. So I really like Chandler. If you want to attack the mid-range at power forward, I definitely think he is in play. And one more mid-range guy I like is Aaron Gordon going up against Boston. Boston really struggles to defend the power forward. And AG is very cheap at just $5,400. For him to get 6x value, you're only going to need 30 DraftKings points. And he can definitely do that in this matchup against the Celtics. Like I said, they do struggle to defend power forwards. And AG is going to get the minutes. He's going to get close to 40 minutes just about every night. If you're attacking the mid-range at power forward, I think he's a guy you should target. I definitely think he can get you 5 to 6x value in this matchup. Yeah, that's pretty much it for power forward. Let's go ahead and move on to center. All right, your top center on the slate is Anthony Davis. I've already talked about him. I've already talked about Boogie. So under Boogie, you got Nikola Jokic going up against Charlotte. I'm really intrigued by Jokic's price at just $9,100. That is very cheap for him. For him to get 6x value, you're only going to need close to 55 DraftKings points. And he can definitely do that in this matchup against Charlotte. They do struggle to defend bigs. I definitely like Jokic on this slate. If you want to pay up for him, he is definitely in play. He's played very well against Charlotte this year. And the one game they played, he put up 56 DraftKings points. So I really like Jokic. I'm very intrigued by that price tag. That is very cheap for him. Under him, I also really like Rudy Gobert going up against Washington. The Wizards do really struggle to defend centers, and Gobert has been on an absolute tear lately. In his last 4 games, he's put up 65, 48, 58, and 36 DraftKings points. For him to return value on that salary, you're going to need about 40 DK points, and he can definitely do that in this matchup. He has torched the Wizards once this year already. He put up 53 DraftKings points in the game that they played. I definitely like Gobert as well if you want to pay up for center. I think he is in play. I also really like Whiteside going up against the Knicks. The Knicks really struggle to defend centers, and Whiteside has been pretty consistent lately. In his last 4 games, he's put up 40, 45, 31, and 31 DraftKings points. At 7,900, you're going to need about 40 DK points for him to return value. And I definitely could see him doing that in this matchup against the Knicks. Like I said, they do struggle to defend centers, so I like Whiteside. If you want to pay up, I think he is in play. I also like Nikola Vucevic going up against Boston. Vucic has just been absolutely killing it lately. He's been very consistent. In his last 4 games, he's put up 50, 38, 38, and 40 DraftKings points. For him to return value on that price, you're going to need about 35 to 40 DK points, and he can definitely do that in this matchup against the Celtics. They do struggle to defend centers, and they're not a very good rebounding team. And Vucevic is a very good rebounder, so I could definitely see him getting close to 15 to 20 rebounds in this matchup. And he can definitely get you 10 to 15 points, get you that double-double bonus on DraftKings. So I really like Vucevic. If you want to pay up for center, I think he is in play. For $100 less, you got Andre Drummond going up against Milwaukee. I also really like Drummond as well. This is a really good matchup. The Bucks do struggle to defend bigs. And with Drummond's $7,600 price tag, you're going to need about 35 DK points for him to pay that off. He can definitely do that in this matchup. Like I said, the Bucks do struggle to defend bigs. And Drummond has played very well against them. The 3 games they played this year, he's averaged 44 DraftKings points. So I also like Drummond. You want to pay up for center, I think he is in play. Some guys at the mid-range I like. One guy I like is Al Horford going up against Orlando. Orlando has just been absolutely getting torched by centers this year. And Horford is very cheap, just $6,700. For him to pay off that price, you're only going to need 30 DK points. And he can definitely do that in this matchup. Like I said, they do struggle to defend centers. And in the one game that the Celtics have played the Magic this year, Horford had 33 DK points in that matchup. So also like him, going to attack the mid-range. I think he is in play. And then some guys on the cheaper end I like. One guy I like is Clint Capella going up against Golden State. This is a really good matchup. Golden State does struggle to defend centers. And Capella just torched this team a couple of days ago and had 30 DK points. I definitely think I could see him getting you 6x value and getting you 30 DK points in this matchup. If you want a cheaper center on this slate, I really like Capella. He's played very well against the Warriors this year. In the 3 games they played, he's averaged 30 DK points. And if he gets you 30 today, that's close to 6x value. So I really like Capella. If you're attacking the cheaper end at center, I like him. And one more cheap center I want to mention is Tristan Thompson going up against the Sixers. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. You want to attack Philly when it comes to centers. I know Thompson isn't the most enticing center, but he can definitely dominate in this matchup. The Sixers just been absolutely getting torched by every center lately. I could definitely see Thompson getting 30 DraftKings points, getting you a double-double in this matchup. So if you need some value at center, I'm really liking him. I could easily see him getting to 5 to 6x value. So I like Thompson. You need a cheaper center on this slate. I like him. And yeah, that's pretty much it for center. Go ahead and give you guys my starting 5 for tonight. Alright guys, so this is my starting 5 for tonight's slate on Friday, March 31st. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or leave a comment on this video, and I'll be sure to answer your question. If you guys want to get my full updated lineups before lock, then follow me on Twitter and send me a message on Twitter, and I'll get you a lineup for FanDuel, Yahoo, or DraftKings, whatever site you play on. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. If you never want to miss out on a video, then please be sure to click the bell icon next to my YouTube name, and you'll get notifications every time I upload. So if you never want to miss out on a video, please be sure to do that. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video. Good luck tonight, guys. Peace.